Hey guys, Snupy here. So in this video, we're going to go over everything you need to know for Feral Druid in patch 10.2 Season 3. We're going to cover builds, talents, honor talents, your stats, your crafted pieces, tips and tricks, rotation, pretty much anything you could want to know as a Feral Druid is going to be in this video right here. So let's dive into it. Okay, so first things first, we're going to cover the two main builds we're going to be playing as Feral Druid in this patch. There's some exciting new talents also that's going to change this, which we're going to dive into shortly. But yeah, basically, there's going to be two main type of builds we're going to be going with. And the first one I'm going to cover is the single target build. And in this season, the single target bite build, because we have a new talent called Saber Jaws. Now, Saber Jaws is really, really strong. You might have noticed I've made videos about this. Doing 300k bites, it crushes very hard, and our overall single target damage is really, really high. That's kind of like the main change in this build from what it did last season. Is that we're going for a bit more bleed heavy to bite heavy in the single targets. And with this comes a few more changes, right? So we went from Circle and Vein Ripper to going double into Saber Jaws, as it's just that strong. And then with this, we're kind of just going away from the bleeds and kind of dots. We're not specking Swarm, and we're not specking Lunar Inspiration. Instead, we're going double Carnivorous Instincts, which you can see here, 12% more damage on your Fury. And then we're also going from Tiger's Tenacity to Raging Fury, so we can extend that Fury and basically have 100% uptime or close to it on our Tiger's Fury. So in this side of the tree, those are the main changes. In this side of the tree, it's fairly similar. We have Cyclone, but the thing about Cyclone, this season has incredible value that's tied to the old talent called Wild Attunement, or it's fairly new actually, but it wasn't last season, where after landing a Cyclone, you get a free Feral Frenzy. Now, the thing about this season is our tier set, because here, I'm going to show you the 4 set on the PTR. Our 2 set makes Feral Frenzy give us 10% more damage in PvP. Keep in mind, it's half in PvP, so yeah, 10% PvP, which is really, really strong when it can get a lot of free frenzies through cycloning. So yeah, that's going to be a major thing to kind of watch out for, so I'm going to touch on more in the rotation part. But yeah, so when it comes to the actual build, that's basically it. With this build, for on talents, usually I like playing Wild Attunement, or basically always when I play Cyclone. I will also use Wicked Claws, because you want that heal reduction, especially if your team doesn't have it already. If you're playing with, let's say, a Hunter or Warrior, you don't need this, and you can change it for, let's say, Thorns, King of the Jungle, or even Strength of the Wild. And then I also like playing with a Ferocious Wound, kind of reduce the enemy's HP a bit with huge bites. But this one's more negotiable. For example, going Thorns there as well is an option. So yeah, that is a single target build, and the on talents you might want to match with it. Now, let's dive into the rotation. Okay, so we're going to be trying to do some big bites. That's kind of like our single target playstyle for this season. So, again, Saber Jaws, very important to keep in mind. So, I guess some questions how this actually works. Basically, Ferocious Bite can consume up to 25 extra energy to increase the damage by up to 100%. Saber Jaws will take that extra 100% and increase that again by an extra 80% once you have the full 25 extra energy. So pretty much just doing more damage with Bite, right? Basically. So yeah, keep that in mind. Also, you want to keep Taste of Blood in mind. For each bleed that's up, you get 5% more damage. This is max of 25 because you have Rake, Rip, Thrash, your Cirque Bleed, and Feral Frenzy. You had to think for a second there. So yeah, bleeds up are also very, very important. You also have Fury, you know, your modifier there, and also Blood Talents, also one more modifier. Basically, stacking all these modifiers is going to make your bites hit really, really hard. So also like a few more modifiers, for example, like Dire Fixation and such, that are a bit smaller. But yeah, so pretty much like for this rotation, what we're going to try to do is get as many bites in instantly. This means there's actually a few different variations you might want to do in a few different situations. The first one to show you is the one I do when I was going to all in and kill someone in the opener. So yeah, I'll show that right now. So we're going to be doing Fury. We're going to Incarn instantly as well, pretty much. We're going to Rake Stun. We're going to Feral Frenzy. We're going to Thrash. We're going to Rip. Then we're actually going to Incarn, Stealth, Rake Stun again, Bite, and then Meld, Rake Stun, Bite again. The reason we can do so many bites is because Incarn is going to be giving us comp points the whole time, just passively, while it's up. So I'm going to showcase that right now. Okay, we're going to be doing it on this dummy because this one's occupied. So what we're going to be doing here, again, is doing the big rakes, triple rake. This opener does not bite instantly because you reapply the rip, or you apply the rip first. That long term will kind of be better for you, kind of because the damage will lead out of the opener as well into more bites with rip up. The 5% will kind of add up after time. You could also bite before ripping if you want to, for sure, and just like not rip until after the stun chain. That will also work just fine. But I quite like this opener. I find it to be effective. Usually it helps me kill instantly or like right after the stun chain, or at least kind of lead that pressure and force a ton of CDs. I'm going to again rake, incarn, feral frenzy, thrash, meld or stealth rake again, bite, then meld, 5 combos again, bite. Now you get a lot of bites, so you can shred, bite again, shred, bite again, and it's gonna keep going like this. Re-proccing BT is very important. And you basically just keep biting with full bleed sub, 5 bleed sub, which means you're going to be doing 25% more damage on all your bites. Just keep proccing blood talons and reapply the rip. As you can see, by the way, Fury is still up. I haven't used it again, and I can use it again now to extend that. So the uptime is absolutely incredible thanks to Raging Fury. So yeah, that's like one variation of the opener we can do. This opener has given me so many kills very early in the game, and if not killing, forcing pretty much every CD. You do use your triple or triple rake, but double stealth with your incarn stealth and also meld. But I find it to be quite worth. And if you use them early on, they're usually come back. If they don't die the opener, come back later in the same game. So there are different versions of this opener. For example, if you're not a Night Elf, you might be a Tauren, a Troll, or any other race for that matter. By the way, you should be Night Elf. Shadow Meld is really, really strong. But yeah, if you don't have Meld for whatever reason, you could just do Bash, or for example, first Incarn Stealth after your Rake opener, and then maybe Bash, or even do a Maim at the very end to kind of cheese that kill in the opener. Often, it's the DR stuns that will force the trinkets or even land you a kill. So yeah, keep that in mind. But I can like show like one version you could do if you don't have Meld. And that would be very similar. Open up. I don't know what happened there. Oh, open up. Thrash. Rip. Stealth. Bite. Triple DR bash. And that little bash into a bite could be what finishes them. Very often, again, it is that last half a second to a second that's going to kill them, especially if your teammates also like doing damage with you. Those last moments could mean, a few 100,000 damage potentially overall, with all the bleeds taken, maybe a bite, a Shadow or Death from your priest or penance. So yeah, that's kind of it for the opener. But you might be wondering, after you open, now what? Now what do you do until the next go? And I'm gonna do that right now, or show that right now. So after having done your opener, you got big damage rolling, but now what? What do you do? What's your rotation? What's your goal as a Feral Druid? I'm going to touch on that right now. So, firstly, talk about it. And that is, after doing your opener, whatever happens in the game, which is going to vary a lot, will kind of dictate what's going to happen, after the opener, of course, right? You might be facing a warrior. It's going to be different from if you're facing a rogue. But in general, your goal is going to be to maintain bleeds, land cyclones, roots, kicks, and in general peel for your team. By the way, you can see here my rotation will go here, play by play. If you want to kind of check that out and kind of break it down a bit more for in slow motion, you can watch that. But yeah, now I'm going to do the opener to kind of showcase what I do in the opener leading into the next go, and kind of what happens in between. But yeah, so kind of same open here. Ignore the comp points. Do the same thing. Opening up. Feral Frenzy, Thrash, gonna rip, Rake Stun, Bite, Rake Stun, Bite again. So while you're incarning, your go is still happening, right? It's still your go. You can still crank, of course, when you have to go bare form and live a bit. Throw in some roots and such. But yeah, you do want to have high uptime in the incarn. Even though you don't have stuns, usually you're gonna be able to keep pumping quite a bit of pressure, as they will be on the back foot. Keep proccing that Blood Talons. You might just see like my rotation is very simple. I'm basically just like proccing blood talons when I can, by throwing in Rake, Rip, and Thrash and such, and then you're doing big bites. Now, some bites might happen without BT, which is fine, but optimally you want to have them up on all your bites. And now Frenzy's back. So, that was Incarn, right? In that time, maybe you're going to have a warrior on you want to root the warrior and such, but the main thing, I would say, like, by keeping up pressure between goes, it's gonna be, and also leading into goes, through Wild Attunement and your 2 sets, right? When you land a clone, you get a free frenzy. This free frenzy will proc your 2-set, and you're gonna get 5 combos. You can do more bites. So you have full blizzard going. What I might do now is, for example, root a guy with full bleeds, clone him, get a free frenzy. Then I'm gonna swap target, just do a 1 combo rip, and then maim, and then frenzy, bite again with BT, and then kind of swap pressure like this. Now this guy might press a defensive like Sparskin, for example. I'll clone him again, and then jump back to the other guy, and then I might do a bash if I have that, and put pressure on him. The great thing about Feral now, like with this build, you can put pressure on different points really fast. If one guy presses a big CD, let's say pain suppression, I can clone him instantly and then swap target and put the pressure over really quick and deal a few 100k damage within a few seconds, right? With a big bite and a big frenzy with the 2-set. So, kind of summarize. Between goes, maintain your bleeds, land big bites, root, cyclone, also do kicks. The actual like rotation doesn't really matter that much, but try keep pressing BT. If you're spreading a rake and then maybe thrashing and then slashing to proc BT, that works. Or if it's in a different order, it doesn't really matter. It all kind of comes down to what's going on in the actual game. One more thing I want to mention is that shredding is not great to do. Your best generator is Brutal Slash, okay? A lot of Ferals ask me about this, and they shred way too much. They're going on energy, or they're starving themselves on energy, and they wonder what's going on. I think that's often from an overuse of shred, because if you're shredding, you're going to be losing a lot of energy and not doing too much damage. Slash cost a lot less energy. You can have a free one. Slash cost 15 less energy and also does more damage. The Slash is your #1 comp point generator. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. Of course, if you have Lunar, which we don't anymore, it's also a pretty good generator. And Shred has his value as well. For example, if this guy's in a trap from Hunter, I'm playing jungle, he's freezing trapped the healer, and if I'm going this guy and a slash, it's going to break the trap. I could move over here instead then and slash, or I could just stand here and rip and maybe get ready for a cyclone or something afterwards as well. And then get a free frenzy again and do even more damage. So yeah, that's also just a bit on comp points. Yes, now we're going to talk about a build that's quite opposite or quite different. Actually, this one also has big bites, but this one is a lot more bleed focused. Show the build right now. And kind of one thing I want to mention kind of about the single target build and the Cleave build. I have versions of them that don't have Cyclone, that are more tanky. There are some times where you might not want to have Cyclone. For example, if I'm facing Rogue Mage in 2v2 and I want to play a single target build, but I want to be a bit more tanky. There's going to be like a tankier version. I have those linked as well under the video. So check those out. But usually, in the vast majority of situations, I really want to have Cyclone, especially now with the new tier set, which I'm going to touch on a bit later in the video as well. Kind of go over all the gear and everything you need. But yeah, so for the Cleave build, you can see here, Cleave clone. The actual build is very similar to last season's build. You can see I'm actually not going Saber Jaws. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit here. So you can see Old Towns. We don't have any of this stuff right here, Well-Honed or a Protective Pack. By the way, all the builds, again, linked under the video. You can check them there. Also, in my Discord, you can find them with the pictures too. But yeah, so we don't have those. If I went a more tanky version, I would get those by skipping this. But yeah, in the clone version, we don't have them. Yeah, no Saber Jaws. Here we do have Rip and Tear. We have Circle. We have Primaraph. That's kind of like the main thing to keep in mind is here we're going to be spreading bleeds on as many targets as possible. We're going to be getting bite procs, also doing huge damage. One thing about this build you can definitely change around. You could go for Rampant Ferocity over Sudden Ambush. Also has quite great value. Those bites will be doing quite a bit in AoE. I do still prefer Sudden Ambush though for kind of spreading that rake damage. But yeah, the build, very similar to last season. Pretty much the same thing. With Astral Influence, increase the range. People often ask me, why am I playing Booming Form? It's a Feral Druid. You don't play for the Boom Form. You play it for Astral Influence to get that extra yards on your abilities, which is absolutely huge when you want to cleave. Also, we have Rise and Light, Fall Night. Great talent. Very, like, you know, kind of passive thing. Doesn't do much, but it's nice to have. So that's the actual main build for our talents. What we're going to change is going with King of the Jungle over Ferocious Wound, for example, because for every rip you have active, you're going to be taking more healing or receiving more healing. And also having high movement speed, which is great when you're spreading rip with Permref. Yeah, there's that for the build. And now onto the rotation for this build. So with the Cleave build and the single target build, Blood Talents is there. By the way, this has changed to 3 stacks over 2. So it's such a great talent now. I would really recommend trying to get used to it. You said use 3 different comp point generators within 4 seconds, and you proc it. So you just keep that in mind as you're gaming. You might have noticed actually a bug sometimes. You're going to rake instantly, just get it. That's quite nice. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you actually can just get it instantly for free, basically. But here we go. So for this opener, it's less about bursting one target and more about kind of getting bleeds out everywhere as fast as possible. Even though your burst on that main target will be decent. But yeah, so we're going to Fury, Rake, Incarnate instantly as well, Feral Frenzy, Thrash, then Premwrath as many targets as possible. Then we're going to keep spreading Rakes around using Bites when we have the time. Keep my bleeds fall off fairly fast with Circle of Life and Death, so there's not going to be much time. And your main objective is going to be maintaining bleeds and then biting with free procs from Apex Predator. So yeah, I'll kind of showcase that right now. This build is what I played usually in my rank 1 push last season, actually, or like last week, the end of last season, and it's a great build. But yeah, let's open up. And it still does crazy damage, and it's quite nice that like the Ferals have the huge bites, but also the huge bleeds, and it's quite like a nice contrast going between the two. So here we go. Opening it up. Rake, Incarnate instantly, Feral Frenzy, proc to BT. Smaller Frenzy will be procced from using Frenzy, Feral Frenzy. We're going to spread all the bleeds, spread the Rakes as well. And as you can see, it's pretty crazy damage. Actually, didn't get any bite procs yet, which is fairly unusual. They usually proc a bit faster than this. So you can still kind of throw in a bite. I have time in this situation, right? But that will be very situational with how much you want to bite without a proc. And it's going to be keep spreading those bleeds. I believe they actually changed like the bite proc. So when you're cleaving a bunch of targets, it's going to be a little bit lower chance than it would be if you're cleaving only a few targets. Like per rip, that is. But yeah, just keep spreading bleeds. Maintain all of it. Get a bite proc. Keep in mind, bites will actually increase the damage of all your rips because of Sabertooth, which is, where is it? Right here. When you bite, your rips are going to be doing a lot more damage for 4 seconds. 25% more if you have 5 comp points. So that is absolutely huge as well. But yeah, just keep spending bite procs. Keep trying to like maintain this bite buff by either procking or just using comp points. And that is the basic like rotation. Basically, just maintain rip, rake, thrash, bite, and also in arena you want to do you know, maims as well. So, stunning targets off DR, and also landing cyclones, because this build also benefits from 2-set. They all do, but also benefits a lot from landing clones and getting free frenzies. So as you're cleaving, proc to BT, look for time cyclone. For example, roots. Cast a clone. Either cloning of roots or stuns is a great way to do it. When you have a proc, just kind of send any comp points to get that free frenzy. It doesn't matter if it's 2 comp points, 1 comp point, just get it out. And get those bleeds up. You can do 1 more potentially here. Even just like cloning a pet or a totem will still give you the buff. So just clone anything you can. And you will be doing a lot more damage. 10% more for 8 seconds. And getting that free frenzy is absolutely huge. And when you have a go again, hit him with a maim, Feral Frenzy again, spread the bleeds, and just crush him. You can do 2 bite columns as well if you want to burst more. And yeah, even though it's a big cleave build, if you really want to kill something, if you have a good go, the chance is there. You can still just send those bites in, do 1 bite proc, 5 comb bite, and then shred bite again. And that could be a huge burst as well. So yeah, that is kind of the cleave build rotation. Again, it can be quite messy just because it really depends on what's going on. But just tell yourself to have bleed up time, maintain all the bleeds, bite when you proc, maim, Feral Frenzy, land some clones, do some roots, and you're going to be golden with the cleave build. Okay, so I do want to touch a bit more on this in depth, and that is when to play what build, right? These 2 kind of main builds, the single target and the cleave build. So I would say our single target has become better this season. We have way better burst single targets, and you can probably get away with that build into basically everything. But there are scenarios where Cleave build still has great value, even in 2v2. For example, into classes like Demoloch, Beastmaster Hunter, or just a lot of melees on a map where you can cleave everyone. I would also rather cleave into, let's say, a Resto Druid than, for example, a Holy Paladin. So there are many factors to keep in mind. Again, the enemy healer, is it a Holy Paladin? Is it a Resto Druid? Is it a Priest? The map, is it a big map? Is it a small map? Smaller map, easier to cleave on. Bigger map, harder to cleave on, especially when there's casters. So you're going to ask yourself when the game starts. Will I be able to cleave, 3, 4, maybe 5 or more targets with pets, throughout the whole game, or no? If the answer is no, you probably want to go single target, bite build. If the answer is yes, like I can cleave a lot throughout the whole game and just get that value, then Cleave might be the option. But I would say overall, going into the season, get used to the big bite build because it's going to be really good in most situations. But the Cleave build also comes in great, comes in handy a lot in certain situations. So that's it on when to pick what build. So maybe the elephant in the room, the unspoken thing that I've not touched on so far in the guide is how to actually survive. Okay, we're maybe one of the most squishy specs in the game. We are the main target probably in most shuffle lobbies, especially in a melee lobby. If there's a Windwalker, a DH, a Warrior, and a Feral Druid, every round of the shuffle, you're going to be the target. Okay, so if you have all the builds, you know how to burst. If you're dead, it's not going to help you much, even though if the enemy's dead, they can't kill you. So sometimes offense is the best defense. But how do we survive? And that's what I'm going to touch on right now. So there's a few things to keep in mind, a few main things, and that is our mobility. We are probably the fastest spec in the game, and with this, we can create space when we want to, and playing around with this will be absolutely massive. We also have bear form, right? Bear form makes us way more tanky. The problem is when you bear form, you're not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. I believe, I don't know what this is bound, but I guess you can actually slash now in bear form. This is a change that not many ferals know about, so you actually can do decent damage while in bear form with slash. Just keep that in mind, is the thing. But yeah, mobility and bear form, two major defensive things that are not a cooldown. They can always happen, so kind of being on point with those is huge. Using the space, for example, if you're cleaving with Astral Influence, you don't even have to face the enemy. You can be a bit away and do damage, and they cannot hit you. The space in between is very important for Feral Druid, right? Maintain your bleeds, whatever. Maybe go in, apply the rip, jump back a bit, then go back in, bite, throw a root up, cyclone. These kind of things are very important to do. If you're just standing, damage someone face to face, a warrior, for example, you're going to lose. But if you throw in roots, you jump away, maybe cast Cyclone, fake cast Reflect, do this, and then maybe even Rake Stun into a new Cyclone, and then swap the healer, control the enemy. Basically, is what I'm getting at here. This kind of comes with time as well. I think a lot of Ferals give up before they kind of learn these things. But as a Feral Druid, you have a great toolkit to control the enemy. Okay, rooting one target, fake casting a kick, landing a Cyclone, stunning one guy, landing a kick. You can basically just control the whole game with Cyclone. Cyclone is probably the best to see in the game. It's up there. Really, really strong if you know how to utilize it. Which is like the next big thing to talk about is your stuns, roots, cyclones. It's great to get people off you. One great way, like if you're taking a lot of damage, is stun and then cyclone off that stun. If you need to create some space and then swap the targets. Okay? Do not be afraid to cyclone to live. Because that cyclone you did live will also help you create pressure. Especially if you can cyclone defensive CDs, like a pain suppression, you can get a double value of taking pressure off your team and also putting pressure on their team. So yeah, again, mobility and bear form, two major defensives that are on a cooldown. Then we also have our stuns, roots, cyclones. Make sure you're actually doing those, use them. I would say most procs I actually use on roots and not instant regrowth, because guys, regrowth and regen doesn't heal almost at all. It's one of my biggest complaints with Feral Druid is that our healing is some of the worst in the game, even when we are, a true hybrid. most non-hybrids, even like DKs and such, heal. Warlocks can easily heal more than us throughout a game. And then lastly, we have actual defensive cooldowns, okay? Your skin, your wall, your regen, even iron fur, Heart of the Wild, but the two main things being skin and wall. So skin is going to be thrown out a lot more easily. Back to bear form. If you can pre-bear from a stun, you can often not skin or skin and take basically no damage. For example, against a rogue, you might see me always try to pre-bear form kidney shots or cheap shots. It's a bit harder to do, but try get into habit of like seeing when a rogue wants to stun you. If you can pre-bear from it, it's going to be absolutely huge. I should also like touch on a honor talent for 1 second. That's quite nice. If you want to be more tanky, Strength of the Wild is going to help a lot in that department. It's going to make your regen heal more because it's based off your max HP, and this will increase your max HP. And this is going to give you quite a bit more tankiness in general. Also makes you gain more rage. And also, your off heals will be going off faster when it comes to regrowth, even though they don't do a whole lot. See, skin is the cooldown you kind of more just throw out off cooldown pretty much. You don't want to use it on air, like just randomly. But if you're stunned, taking damage, usually you want to press bar skin. Now, wall is a big cooldown, right? 3-minute CD. You want to try and make sure you kind of press this when you're taking big damage. For example, if a warrior is popping avatar, whatever, going ham, or DK's popping every cooldown, and you can't escape, you can't, get to a pillar with your ability, then you usually want to trade wall, potentially sit bear form and regen, or even sometimes if you have incarn, you're going in, you're pushing in, you have a lot of damage, you can kill, but you're scared to die, you can wall offensively to allow yourself to push in deeper and go for the kill. So guys, when it comes to living as a feral, all these things I said are important to keep in mind, but they might be kind of hard to just kind of, me just saying them won't really do it, is what I'm saying here. I have to go out there, play a lot of games, try things out, try to run a bit more, try to do some more routes, try to do some more clones, see what works, see what doesn't work, and kind of work with that. And eventually you will improve a lot. And it can improve very fast as well if you kind of keep these things in mind. But yeah. Now on to the next part of the video. Okay, so now for gearing. So your tier set, embellishments, stats, all the things. Let's start off with stats. So, stat priority hasn't really changed for a long time now. It's verse, mastery, haste, and then crit. But there's something to note this season, and that is now with the big bites, crit has a bit higher value. Because of big bites, the crit, of course, is going to be doing a lot more damage. But the thing about this is that even though crit has higher value, we're not really going to be going for it specifically. And this is because we get a good amount of crit through our crafted boots, which we're going to get to a bit later. We're going to be having the crafted boots. By the way, keep in mind, some of these things might be a bit weird. Like these should be 489 because of Season 3, but I'm on the PTR, keep in mind. But yeah, Infurious Foot Wraps of Indemnity, you want to dream craft these. Get in 489, they will give you crit. You're also going to have crit from your tier set on the chest quite a bit. And you also get crit from like Kara's teaching, 6%. So even like without going for crit specifically, you will still end up with quite a bit of crit anyways. And also sometimes if you really want to do some huge bites, you could swap insignia for a badge to get that on use, but also some more crit. So yeah, stat priority, verse, mastery, haste, crit. The reason haste is still so good is a reason we also touched on earlier, and that is Cyclone, the value of Cyclone. It has so crazy value now with the tier set, especially 2 sets, just because of that extra damage on the Frenzy for 8 seconds. And therefore, having haste will make Cyclones way easier to land, and landing Cyclones is going to be what gives you the benefit. So, yes. That is why haste is still, I would say, better than crit, even though crit has good value still. And then, of course, mastery is great. Gives you more bite damage, more bleed damage. And verse also just gives you more damage across the board, while also making you less squishy, which we know we need as feral druids. So yeah, that is stats. Now on to the actual gearing and the crafted pieces. Okay, so for the actual gearing, I'm going to go through each piece and kind of explain what we want and also the enchants we're going to put on it. So, let's start. First up, we got the gloves, verse mastery. Keep in mind, these will be 489 on retail, just because I'm showing you on the PTR bit now too, so I can show you guys the 4 set. But yeah, these are really good verse mastery. And that is the first piece we're going to go for tier set on. Then we have the waist. So the waist and wrist are haste verse, but you can actually craft these with verse mastery later on the season through the lifebound belt. So yeah, if you want to kind of optimize a bit more for mastery later on down the line, you can kind of craft lifebound belt there with a spark and also the trophies of conquest to get that in 489 with verse mastery. And we got the shadow belt clasp on here. You can find the auction house, gives you some more stamina. Then we have the haste mastery tear set legs. Again, these will also be 489, of course, in PvP. If you convert from conquest gear to tear gear at the catalyst. But yeah, so these are also very, very good. Haste mastery, no verse, but very, very good stats overall. And again, we love that haste. We got the fierce armor kit on this one, which you can also find on the auction house. Then we have the crafted boots in Fury's foot wraps of indemnity. Again, these will also be 489 on retail, as you can see right here. These have crit verse, good stats for us, especially with the big bites, and they do have that embellishment that gives you nice main stat proc. Yeah, those are also very, very good. When it comes to ranks in this season, there's a few different things you can do. Ferals do different things here. Personally, what I'll do, I'm going to craft a Signet of Titanic Insight when I can. I'll show you guys that right now real quick. Which you can also get verse mastery on one of these and make it 489. And potentially also later on get that mastery embellishment. It's going to give you like a percentage of mastery over 90% health. It's going to be on screen right now, which is also going to be great. We're going to touch on embellishments a bit more after this. Second rank, you just go for the verse mastery version from Conquest, or you can go for the haste verse and also verse mastery and just play both of those. Haste is still great. Trinkets, we got medallion and insignia, pretty basic. For the weapon, it's actually a verse mastery weapon now from Conquest, so long term we want that. Sovic devotion on there, the best enchant. Again, the risk could be verse mastery if you make the lifebound version from the crafting orders. But again, haste is good. And some ferals prefer to play more haste to get even easier clones. So it's also a good option. Then we have the chest tear piece. We have crit tear mastery. Again, you get a lot of crit from this one, which is great for big bites. And then we got waking stats on the chest. Then we got the cloak, verse mastery. Spore cloak actually got nerfed quite a bit, so I think this will be the move the whole season. Then we have the tear shoulders, haste verse, also good stats. And yeah, this means we have tear set on the shoulders, the chest, the legs, and the gloves. Which means we're skipping it on the headpiece. Then we have the neck. This one you want a triple gem, like I've done with this one right here. Mastery and verse gems on it, and just get the verse master neck from PP. And that will be great. And then the headpiece. Okay, guys, here actually I have the wrong headpiece, but on the PTR, I can't get the right one. But my plan now on retail is crafting precognition on the headpiece. You're going to go with a lifebound cap again, or the lifebound gear. I'll show right now. And we're going to be doing the statuette of foreseen power, which means if you fake cast, you can get it. You cannot be kicked or secede, and you get a line of clones easier. So that will be my two main embellishments we're going to talk about now. Is going to be the boots with the main stat, and then precognition, aka statuette of unforeseen power on the headpiece. So yeah, for the embellishments, those two are the main ones, but sometimes you might want to get the, like I said earlier, Signet of Titanic Insight ring with the mastery embellishment. And then some matchups, most matchups are going to play clone, but if you don't want to play clone in certain matchups, you can go higher mastery, as you're not going to be getting much value out of precognition if you're not playing Cyclone. So yes, that is the gear right there, and now we're going to jump into some tips and tricks. Okay, so now for some final tips and tricks. So I also want to kind of touch on our 4 set, because I actually didn't really touch on it yet. I touched on a 2 set, but a 4 set, not so much, because it's more as a passive thing. But our feral frenzy CD is reduced by approximately 7.5 seconds, or by 7.5 seconds in PP, a bit more in PvE. So 37.5 seconds CD on your feral frenzy in PP. This actually does make quite a big difference because Fury, I pretty much press off CD now if I'm playing my bite build because we're extending it like we talked about earlier in the video. So yeah, that's quite nice. Just basically press Frenzy when you're stunning people, or just can do it off CD, especially when you weave it in with your Wild Ultimate Frenzies as well. So it doesn't really change your gameplay that much, but it gives you back a little bit earlier, which can be great. And then just get, you know, an extra bleed burn, which is not going to do that much, but it's a nice little extra damage, but nothing to really think about. But when it comes to things to think about for tips and tricks, the first thing being when you shapeshift, people ask me, how do you get back in form so fast? Look at this. Boom. Off global shapeshifting. How this is done is that certain abilities will put you back in the cat form off global. This is Incarn, Dash, even Meld Rake, and also, yeah, Fury. So, if I'm in a route, for example, I'm going this guy right here. I get slowed down before Incarn. I might as well leave form and go Incarn again to lose that slow. Same thing with Fury as well, and also Dash. Let's say I 5 comp points is right there. I get rooted. Just leave form, Fury, back in form, and then you can bite him. And Dash will do the same thing, but that will put you on global in cat form. Yeah, that's the first tip and trick is regarding shapeshifting. I also do have one macro when it comes to shapeshifting, but it's only cancel form macro. It's going to leave form for you as like having that on one button for all the forms. So that can be quite nice to have as well. And then my second tip will be just really focus in on bleed uptime, guys. It's very important in Cleave build and single target build, even in the bite build, because it's going to buff your bites majorly with Taste of Blood. So when you want to bite, make sure you have those bleeds up. And it's going to be increasing damage by a ton. As you can see, they're hitting very hard. And my third and final tip for this video is going to be regarding bear form. We touched on it a bit earlier in the survivability part, but yeah, bear form is absolutely huge. And being able to pre-bear form stunts is massive, and it's going to help you a lot. Using Omni bars and add-on can help kind of track enemy CDs. It's going to help a lot here. Also, diminish, you can see that your own DR, so you know when they want to stun you. But also kind of off of game sense, you'll learn, you'll kind of see it. If a rogue is moving towards you, his kidney's off cooldown, he's going to kidney shot you. So go bear form, and it's going to help you a ton. And also, like, for example, Stormbolt, if you see it coming towards you, go bear form. But yes, that's it for this guide. Enjoy 10.2. Feral's actually very good in this patch. There's a few specs that are a bit above us right now, but we're doing really, really good. So yes, have fun. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.